Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golden Frequency Radio. I am Beth Carr, intuitive quantum energy healer and your host, here with my friend and co-host Eric Rains. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Eric is the alchemical engineer behind UnleashingNaturalHumanity.com and the etheric parasite and implant removal protocol that we both utilize in sessions with our clients. More information about this work can be found at UnleashingNaturalHumanity.com, as well as the Facebook page Unleashing Natural Humanity. We also have a YouTube channel, Golden Frequency Radio, where you can listen to recordings of our previous shows. We will be taking calls for the entire show tonight. For those of you who would like to join the discussion, please call 619-924-9805 and press 1 to let me know that you have a question or a comment or would like to join the discussion. I would like to extend a massive thank you to our audience, those listening live tonight and those listening later to the archived recording. Let us all take a moment together now to set our intention for tonight's show as being in alignment with the highest good for all, providing space for resonant information, validation, and support for anyone who has found their way to this broadcast. Tonight's show is all about the frequency, and oh, how it has been intense, ecstatic, challenging, activating, expansive, and quite frankly, apocalyptic. And when I say that word, I evoke its Greek definition, which translated literally is a disclosure of knowledge or a lifting of the veil or revelation. So, Eric, hi, I'm excited to be here with you tonight after a 2-week hiatus from the show. Where do we begin?
Where do we begin?
I think, well, a really fantastic place, I think, to start the show tonight would be for you to give all of us a little bit of an insight into your recent Mount Shasta adventures and some of the experiences that you've had through that, if you'd like to talk about it.
Definitely. I've actually got 2 of them, one last month that we never really got to talk about as well. So I went to 2 conferences in Mount Shasta, one at the end of last month, and I just got back from this one at this last weekend, actually. And the first one was with a man named Luis Martin, and he is a contactee of extraterrestrial contactee since he was 13, and he's been having ongoing experiences for the past 40-something years. And this guy has just an amazing wealth of knowledge and an absolutely lovely energy. It's really interesting to meet people that you hear talking, because, we listen to all these interviews, we do all this research, we read these articles, and you never really get
we may have just lost Eric. Eric, are you there? Yeah, well, it looks like we've got a little bit of interference. Let's go ahead and take a moment now to clear that. Anyone listening live, you can extend your potency with me now to help to clear any technological interferences that we're having. Clearing that now. Ooh, I can feel those of you joining in. How lovely. Eric, if you can still hear us, you might just need to call back in. And for the listening audience who's wondering why we have silence here, we've just lost Eric, so we're going to give him a few minutes, a little chance to get reconnected. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead. Eric, I'm going to hang you up. If you can just call us back in. And while he's doing that, just a little brief overview of tonight's show. We are going to be talking about frequency updates primarily, which is incredibly salient because, folks, the training wheels have been taken off, and I'm sure all of you who are listening are feeling the intensity of the energy of this time and the extremity of it. So, the chasm has been ever widening, for a while now, and that's really amped up. So those, there are those of us that are feeling intensely activated and ecstatic and really tuned in and in the flow. And then there are some for whom, anything that needs to be cleared or healed or released or faced or needs awareness brought to it, it's all happening now. And so those of you that have been really struggling with this energy, especially in the past 3 days, be gentle with yourselves and recognize that simply releasing the resistance, even to the resistance, will really ameliorate those feelings of discomfort. Focusing on non-judgment and self-love primarily. Okay, so I'm wondering if maybe Eric has had his phone die potentially. Let's see, I'm going to send him a message here. So this must be a very powerful show tonight, which I have felt that since the moment that we came to the conclusion about the topic. I've felt the power of this show. So it's not surprising that we get technological interference. And we just meet that with humor primarily. Humor is incredibly effective at this time. In fact, we should be finding ways to laugh as much as we can during this time, bringing humor in, and also just being willing to be flexible and flow through it. We have plenty of time to cover all of the topics that we need to cover. And if anyone listening would like to call in and maybe chat with me until we can get Eric reconnected. Oh, let's see, here he is.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you. There you are.
Well, that was interesting.
Welcome back. Yeah, this is a powerful show, right? That's just some validation.
Yeah, definitely. So what was the last thing that you heard?
Oh, it was so long ago, I can't remember. You were speaking about the contactee from your first Shasta adventure, not the most recent one. Okay. Talking about how he has had extended, it's been going on since he was 13 and for the past 50 years, although I did miss his name, which you might want to repeat for the audience as well.
Yeah, his name is Luis Martin, and he doesn't speak a lick of English. He had a translator, and he uses Facebook Translate. So, I mean, you can actually get into contact with this guy, but yeah, it was very interesting to, I got to repeat everything that I said for like the past 5 minutes. I was sitting here talking and didn't know that I was off the air. So this guy, he's had extensive contact for the past 13 years, and it was really interesting to actually go and speak to this guy because I don't really get a feel for people until I can actually, meet them and tune into their energy. And this guy is an incredibly bright being of light. It was really something else to be near him, and his whole core messages, because I mean he says a lot of stuff that most of the mainstream America would immediately write off as this guy being absolutely crazy. He's been on ships, he's had light beings show up right in front of him, and he's got the documentation, he's got videos, he's got pictures, all kinds of different things. But what really clinched it for me was his message. And his message was that we are here to break open this prison. We are here to come inside of this prison to shine the light so brightly that there is no choice but it cracks open. And we do this by becoming more compassionate, more service to self, or service to others, more service to humanity, more compassionate and bright. And it's just a really interesting thing to tune into this guy and see him actually living it, because he had, the craziest stuff I've ever seen. We'll call it a 10. This guy was at like a .001. He had, some very, very small things that were like hanging on inside of his meridian flow trying to block it, and that was it. I mean, everything else was completely wide open. This guy, he was really incredible just to be around and hear this message. But I saw some really interesting stuff in the sky that weekend. We saw this really, really bright red and orange orb that it looked almost like it was floating just a couple of 100 feet up above us. And it was making these weird, crazy, erratic movements as it was flying. And it was just impossible to duplicate with like an airplane. It, anything that was using wind as or airflow as its lifting propulsion source, it couldn't duplicate this. It was just too far up, too far down, too far to the side. And it was really cool to see this thing in the sky, and we got like really excited about it. But the feeling that came over me when I was like trying to energetically tap into this thing was just an overwhelming sense of peace, an overwhelming sense of calm. And to feel that and it was like there was almost something extra, like there was stuff being downloaded that I just didn't understand. I don't know what was happening with it, but it was a very, very interesting experience because, our work, it deals with more the here and now, what's going on inside of people. And I don't really look outside like that. I don't really kind of put the two and two together with, like, they are here. They are trying to show us what's happening on an energetic scale, but, most often at the times people are looking down at their cell phones or something like that. We deal with, like, what's going on directly inside of the body with things that are attached to the body energetically and whatnot. And it was really interesting to be able to make the connection like that because, honestly, most of the time I gloss over, like, positive beings and stuff like that because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the more dark aspect of things that we can remove and send to the light. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of made that connection right there that 2 + 2 = 4, like just because there's a bunch of dark stuff doesn't mean that you can't interact with the light stuff as well. And it's kind of got me looking for that as well. And it's definitely improved my work quite a bit just from having that resonance to go and look for, And I think that's one thing that we all should try to do is actually contact benevolent beings. But, the problem is, unless you're well-versed with these systems, it's easy to get tricked. There's a lot of trickster beings out there that can pretend to be a being of light. So, it's until you get to the point to where you can tell the difference, it's best to look at the light inside and expand that out. But, it was really cool to make that connection right there and actually meet this guy who has had extensive experience. And, I mean, you can feel the truth in this guy when he's talking. And it was just absolutely incredible to have this experience that weekend. But last weekend was very, very interesting. Corey Good, Michael Sala, and Laura Eisenhower were there presenting. And if you guys don't know who Corey Good is, he's a secret space program insider who's been contacted by the Sphere Being Alliance. And these are massive energetic orbs that have been entering the solar system since the turn of the century, but more recently since the 80s, and especially since we broke into the 21st century. Like the year 2000, I believe there was a massive influx, and there's just been more and more coming in. And these are energetic spheres the size of anywhere from like Jupiter all the way down to the size of our moon, and there's anywhere from 700 to 800 of them in the solar system right now. And he's a contactee from these guys, and it was very interesting to hear what he had to say. And one of the things that stuck out the most for me was the fact that the spheres have been buffering the energy coming into the planet. in a normal cycle, I believe it's every 25,000 years or so, the sun actually builds up energetically, and it gives off a pulse, or they call it a sneeze. It's like an involuntary pulsing action. And this is the ascension wave energy that's actually happening right here. But we aren't in a normal system. We're in an energetic cage. We're in an energetic prison. And if it were to actually happen naturally, we wouldn't be able to handle the energy. It would be too much. And I mean, you just have to look around at what's going on with it even buffered right now to see how crazy everything is actually getting. And, you know, imagine that on a magnitude scale times 100. That's what's actually being buffered down. But what it's doing is it's waking up humanity. And you can't deny that humanity is waking up anymore. There's too much going on. There's too much that's always been occulted, hidden in the shadows, that's wide out in the open now, that's actually mainstream knowledge. You know, the biggest one that comes to mind is the actual election system, how absolutely rigged and just, you know, self-servicing that whole entire that system is. And then, you know, like the Federal Reserve, everybody knows that the Federal Reserve isn't federal anymore. And, I mean, these are things that are starting to come out into mainstream that people are actually noticing. And this is part of the beginning of awakening, because once it moves from the physical, it'll move on to the energetic as well. And they've been buffering this energy down so that we can actually handle the influx. And what he said, I felt resonate inside of me so incredibly strongly, was the fact that they're starting to phase out. They're stopping the buffering, and they're allowing the energy to come into its own fruition. And we have been at the point to where we can handle what was being fed to us in smaller increments, and we've been acclimating to it. And now we can handle more and more and more. And they're following a strict protocol of what the tolerances are. That's how much they're allowing through. And what is being allowed through is so much more now than ever has been. And, I mean, anybody energetically sensitive can feel it. Like, everything's going crazy right now. You know, it's the point to where the rising frequencies that are inundating this planet right now are affecting every single last person, even the most unaware, asleep at the wheel person out there. They're really starting to get a sense of urgency and not understand why. They're starting to get a restlessness and not understand what is actually happening. And a lot of people try to cover that up with, you know, like addictive tendencies and, you know, just distractions and stuff like that. Now more than ever, we have to really start focusing inward. We have to start visualizing what we want to see with these incoming waves of frequency. And, you know, it was a very, very powerful weekend for me, you know, not just being on the mountain, but all the work that I was able to do. I lost count of how many extractions that I actually did. And the collective consciousness, again, was really hit pretty hard. Everybody knew about the work. Everybody was talking to me about the work. And to actually see people go through the work and then have their testimonials afterwards, it really started to wake people up to the fact that there is an energetic cause for a lot of the stuff that is happening here. And it's not just something that they were that they were reading online. It's not just something excuse me. It's not just something they were reading online, and it's not just something that, you know, they were watching videos of. This is real hands-on stuff that they could see and then talk to the people afterwards and then go and do it themselves. And so it's a really intense weekend for me, not just because there was a lot of work, but because of everything that was happening. And I could literally feel people being guided in the collective consciousness with just this weekend right here. And ever since this weekend, everything has really energetically been very intense. I don't even want to say crazy because it's been crazy for a long time, but it's much more intense now. And, you know, it's at the point where we really have to start looking internally and shining the light. You know, this is what we need to do.
Yeah, there's and something that's been happening for a long time, and I was talking about it a little bit as when you were disconnected, is a widening of the chasm between, you know, the being in flow and tuned into this energy that's coming in that really is very, I mean, it's very activating. I've I've lost count of the activations I've had over the past 3 days. So there are keys available to us that fit in the locks that are basically we are activating dormant aspects of ourselves. It's a remembering and an evolving. And like you say, it's just been really intense. And the only thing that I've noticed, through pardon me, through, observing and speaking with clients, and we're able to sort of notice trends in the work that we do. And one of the only thing that I can say is super consistent is that it's extreme. And so if you're tuned in, it's euphoric. If you are in resistance, then you want to murder yourself right now. I mean, people are really having very extreme experiences, and so, like you say, there is a sense of urgency, in so much as in order to really take advantage and make the most of the opportunity that we're in, a lot of the work that we have to do involves releasing resistance, and even, releasing resistance to the change, because, it's uncomfortable, this sense of movement, releasing resistance to the change, and also really working on your foundation of self-worth, because anything that needs awareness or needs to be cleared or healed, any of that is coming up right now and refusing to be ignored. And so we have no choice but to call it out, own it, honor it, and just agree to be willing to let it go, because all of the old rules are, nothing really applies. It's all new. So any belief systems, ideologies, dogma, even archetypes, we have to be willing to clean out the closet. It's like a spring cleaning, and a willingness to just be a blank slate, open-hearted, and trust the process of what's happening, really, because there's no doubt in my mind that this feeling of imminence, there's an imminent action, and I never really get into predictions about what I think is going to happen, because when I look into the future, I always see potentials. And so for me, it's always really important to be right in the now moment, experiencing the energy as it comes in the now moment, as much as possible, because that is where the flow is. That's where we get, that's where we can be as tuned in to reality, whatever we want to define that as that's where it's at. And so, I wanted to go back to what you were saying just briefly before we move on to what you were talking about with the orb that came in your first trip to Mount Shasta, and how what you received felt like a download that you didn't necessarily understand, and how it opened your awareness that there are a lot of beings, and they all, not all of them are malevolent, nor do they mean us harm, and actually quite a few of them just couldn't care less and are moving through their lives without even paying any attention to us. But that we get this information when we're able to integrate it. And what you've described that the Sphere Being Alliance has done for us by buffering this energy has really allowed us to slowly take the time to receive and integrate and rest, receive, integrate, and rest. And we've graduated, basically, is what, when you describe these things, I always feel such resonance and validation, because you articulate the things that I'm feeling from within myself, which is where I get most of my information. It's really very intuitive, the way that I receive. And it really does feel like the training wheels are off, and we're ready for it. So there's no, it wouldn't be happening if we weren't prepared. And so when, during this time when we're tempted to get into fear because it's so intense, or some physical sensation comes over us, through a physical upgrade of the energy, to remind ourselves that it's okay to trust that we're not going to we're not going to just become a puddle of goo on the floor, which is what probably would have happened had we had it all in one big shot. But it's been a drip. It's been a drip, and we're prepared. And, the only thing that we have to do really is be willing to be present and accountable and take responsibility. And as you say, step into the true and authentic compassion, peacefulness, calm, empathy. It's so, I've had overwhelming waves of pure unconditional love for I don't even know what. Sometimes it just washes over me, and I feel like I want to scoop the whole world up in my arms and just hug it so tight, feelings like that. And sometimes we could think we're crazy when these things happen to us until we allow ourselves to have some expanded perspective and relax into the process. There's a lot of people are feeling just really stressed out by how intense it is. And if you're feeling a lot of discomfort, I just want to remind you that releasing resistance will ameliorate a huge amount of the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic discomfort that you're feeling, just relaxing into it.
Mhm. Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. So let's see where we want to go. It looks like we have someone who would like to perhaps speak with us here. Let's see if I can bring them on the line. Hi, you're on air. What's your first name?
Hi, my name is Melissa.
Hi, Marcia.
It's Melissa. Sorry, I'm a mumbler.
Oh, I've missed it twice. One more time, just really articulated, because I want to get your name right.
It's Melissa with an
Melissa.
M. Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Hi. So do you have a question or a comment, or how would you like to join our discussion this evening?
Well, I logged in on my laptop and I couldn't get my sound to come through, so I called in, and I think that's probably why I was, my phone wasn't really working right either, so I think that maybe that's why you weren't able to hear me. So I've been having a hard time hearing the discussion.
Oh,
so, sorry.
We're having some trouble with the audio? Is that or is it
I think
technological? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's on my end, honestly.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's on my end.
So you've called in just to listen. Is that so? Or
no
well, I mean,
questions,
if
no comments or anything?
if you're doing readings, I must definitely have a concern.
Well, for tonight, we're not really doing readings tonight. We're really just discussing energy and frequency, sort of current events. So if you have had an experience recently with the energy and you'd like to share that with the audience and with us, we would love to hear about that.
With the energy, as in like the planetary shifts?
Yeah, just, she said like the planetary shift. So I would say that there's a confluence. There's a confluence of energetic components making a very potent stew for us right now. So yeah, everyone's experiencing this intensity so individually in many ways. And so, yeah, I mean, if there's something that you'd like to share in that vein, we would just be so happy to have you join that.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I would say until about, I would say the very beginning of this week. So I think around Monday is when things started to pick back up for me. But prior to that, for a good, oh gosh, I want to say probably at least 2 or 3 weeks. And in the third week, it was the absolute worst for me. I just felt like there was a very, very, very intense low energy where I felt like there was a lot of fear and doubt and worry surrounding me at all times, and it felt like it just felt like things just weren't flowing right. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
It does.
and especially on the night of the full moon, I mean, it was just the absolute worst. That whole entire day, the energy was so intense where it was very difficult for me to hold back tears. And I can't even say that I had a reason, to feel a need to have those kinds of emotions. But it was really, really, really intense. And then as the night went on, it just got progressively worse. And then, like I said, by Sunday, this past Sunday, things started to, raise up again. And Monday, things were just good, back to normal. And it was interesting because it wasn't. It was like a completely back to normal. Like everything was flowing again, just the way it was prior to this, low energetic state that I was in for a few weeks.
So that's actually really super salient to what we're talking about. And so we can talk a little bit about what might have occurred there in your experience with that manifestation of really low energy, tears that come for what a reason that you can't determine. Tears are great, by the way. It's an energetic release. I always say don't resist crying because it's an incredibly healthy way to allow an energetic release. So, Eric, would you like to start by speaking a little bit to what might have been going on there with Melissa's experience of the energy over that period of time?
Oh yeah, definitely. One question that I have before we start getting into this is, how was the period of time before you started feeling that low energy? Were you getting to the point to where everything was a really high vibration? You were feeling really good?
Oh, yes. Better than I've probably felt in years. Well, then I've definitely
that
felt
right
in years.
there. That right there is our clue, because what was happening is you were actually turning on your energy body. You were starting to shine very, very brightly. And what happened, especially with the incoming frequencies, is a lot of people who understand what is actually happening and realize that it's all about turning on that light inside, we're getting attacked. We're literally getting attacked energetically. And so what's going on here is you might have had an entity that went and sat down right next to you and was trying to turn you away from this line of thought, away from this energetic feeling right here. And what was going on when you were at that point to where you were feeling everything deep, dark, low, you still held on to the light, didn't you?
Oh, of course.
And what you did is you literally used up all the energy that this entity and these systems had, and they had to move on somewhere else because you weren't going to turn dark. You weren't going to feed them. And that's exactly what was happening right here. It's these systems of control, these systems that have been holding humanity in the dark for millennia upon millennia, they're starting to recognize that the stand-down codes aren't working anymore. They can't just walk up and press buttons, like energetic buttons on people to get them flip out, or to get them to go into a deep, dark depression, or, to isolate themselves from support or anything like that anymore. What's happening is they're recognizing that we are remembering who we are. We're remembering what we're here for. We're remembering that we are truly energetic creator gods in this reality. And They don't want that. They're losing control of their system right now. And so they're doing everything that they can in their power to turn us back off, and it's not working. And it's not working at all. And so what was going on is you got to a place to where everything was really starting to come into fruition for you. You were manifesting quite clearly, weren't you?
Yes. Mhm.
You were manifesting clearly. You were spreading that happiness, that joy, that compassion, that love. And what that does is that literally infects other people with that happiness virus. You know, you can't stay happy. You can't stay depressed around people who are just so incredibly happy and bubbly and want nothing better than you to be happy with them. And it's like a infectious virus. It's the virus of light, I like to call it, because it spreads and it just can't be stopped. And so what they try to do is turn those light beacons, those lighthouses, dark. And it's happened quite a bit in the past. And it sounds like you really just pushed right through it, and you're not feeling back to normal, are you?
Are you saying I'm not feeling back to normal?
You're not all the way to the point you were before. Where are you?
I wouldn't say 100%, no.
But what you're doing is you're getting back to it because you already experienced that vibration. You already experienced that level of clarity, and so you can get back to that quite easily. I actually have a meditation on YouTube that can help you out quite a bit. It's called the Implant Protection and Extraction Protocol, and pretty much it's a series of turning on gold light points inside your body and turning them into bigger orbs and then moving them through your body and then pushing them outside so that you armor yourself in golden light. And then in the last spot, you actually turn on a golden shield, a golden egg around you. I definitely play around with that idea right there. See about turning on little bright golden points of light inside your body. Just visualize just like the sun. The sun it's very incredibly bright and golden. You know, just turn on little points of light inside your body that mimic the sun and just kind of move them around. And you'll actually notice that you will either feel places in your body that start to get really tight and sore and uncomfortable, or you'll notice things actually leaving, and you'll feel your clarity raise up and your vibration lift quite a bit higher. So I highly recommend that you try that out right there. But, yeah, you're a very classic example of what's going on right here, and you really didn't know anything about these control systems before you got onto this phone call, did you?
Well, I can't say that I didn't know about them, but what I can say is that no, it wasn't clear to me that is what was taking place. I am empathic, so I pick up on other people's energies, and you know, sometimes I pick up on people's energies that aren't even in the same city that I'm in, and I was having a very difficult time because my immediate thought was to, immediately I thought, why am I feeling like this? Because, you know, you feel like it's your own. You know, you feel like it's your own stuff.
Yeah.
And then then I snapped and said, okay, this can't be me. You know, this can't be mine. But there wasn't any kind of clarity that I could gain from anywhere, anyone, or anything that could convince me that it wasn't me, you know.
Oh, it wasn't you. It wasn't you at all.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Although I will say here, just to interject at that point, is that the parasitic construct does target us quite often where we still have work to do. And this is one of the ways that we can really spin this whole thing into a positive opportunity when we are targeted and interfered with. Many times the ways that we are targeted, because everyone really is sort of targeted in very individual and specific ways. Some of those ways are collective and common, and then others are very specific and individual. And so we can really look at the places where this interference is as almost like a thumbtack on the map of where you can focus some of that inner work, some of the shadow work and the inner work. Because when we clear that access point, when we heal it, when we clear it, when we face it with non-judgmental honesty and a willingness to grow, then those access, it really it removes that access point. And so if you can, you might get some benefit from looking at the fear and the doubt and the worry, and in your clear state now, revisiting those feelings to just look at, where you can gain some tools, where you can do a little bit of healing, a little bit of shadow work, in order to avoid being targeted in that same way in the future when the energy really ramps up and you're really in flow, and there's an attempt to pull you out of flow, which is really, I think, really common, especially for the sensitives, right? If you're doing good work, they don't want you to be doing that good work, and so they're going to get you anywhere where there's still some work to do. So sometimes it's nice to journal around those things when you're in the middle of it, when you're triggered, when you're, in the depths, and then look back at it later when you're clear, so that you can gain, some perspective and understanding and tools around that as well.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, exactly what you're saying. I mean, I completely get it 100%. Because, it didn't just involve me, and it involved my boyfriend. And, when it comes to my the things that I've been working on healing for, a long time now. And I've kind of just recently this year started to, break through these barriers and, with this healing around my heart. And so
your relationship
this seemed to, affect me and my boyfriend. And, and he and I are really in the same kind of situation, he's had a lot of healing to do as well. And this darkness that kind of came over me for a while, it was the same for him, the exact same for him.
Yeah, and, it's really common. Yeah, really common in relationships. That if one person is vibrating really high and really in tune and totally clear and, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, the other person in the relationship will be targeted and triggered, and then, in an attempt to kind of suck you in. That's a really, really a common place. And so how...
And I think that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, throughout the entire time, I generally protect myself with light every day. And for the most part, I'll do it several times a day. And that's one of the things that was, I think, getting to me the most during the worst times for me, during this dark period, because I felt like I was constantly, I would constantly sit by myself and close my eyes and, imagine light coming down, white light coming down and fusing me and grounding me to, the core, Mother Earth's core, and, just creating this bubble of protection around me. And I would ask to have my fears removed and worries removed, take them from me, and it just seemed to not stick. It felt like it wasn't sticking. So like in the moment I would feel, this sense of peace and safety. I was safe and secure, and I was okay, and it just seemed to not last, and it was really throwing me off.
Yeah, so
really throwing me off.
Sometimes asking for something outside of yourself to take these things away simply can't be effective because there's work to do around those things. And so when you can take, it's a level of accountability combined with vulnerability and really just a willingness to call it out. And speaking it out loud can be really helpful, where you're just talking, even if you're talking to yourself, you call out what's happening, you own it, you take a level of responsibility for it, you honor it, and then you agree to be willing to make the choice to let it go, or depending on the protocol or the process that is best for you. The thing that this boils down to is that the parasites are not inherently powerful. They've got really fancy technology, they're super tricky, and they've got lots of contingencies, but they don't have the creative power. We have the creative power. So as we remember how to step back into our own sovereign potency and say, you know what, I can handle this. I can face whatever fear is coming in, whatever doubt is coming in, whatever worry is coming in. I can look at it straight in the face. I can look at where the traumas occurred, where the patterns began, what the programs are that I'm running, and I can choose for myself that that's not what I want anymore. I'm not just going to be a leaf in the wind, going, whichever way the wind chooses to take me. I'm going to make a conscious choice about where I want to align, and I'm going to take control of my healing. Being your own healer, awakening your ability to step into your sovereignty and say, look, you know what, parasites, I appreciate what you're showing me. You think that you're messing with me, but what you're really doing is you're showing me exactly where I can do some work. And I've even, I'm to the point where I have gratitude for the parasites. I don't see them as my enemy. When I remove a parasite and I send it to source for reconstitution, that's a loving act, because I respond to every living being with love and compassion, including the parasites. And so, we have really, you, Melissa, are far more powerful than any parasite or entity that could ever have any interest in messing with you, and it's really just, it's a beautiful process, really, when we start to recognize that we've been messed with all of these, for lifetimes. And when we look at our own lives in this incarnation, we can get really frustrated and irritated and feel victimized and get mad. And all of that is part of the process too, but you can move beyond that into realizing that you don't have to be victimized. You're only victimized, really we're only targeted where we still have work to do, which is why there are those out there who are invisible to the parasitic interference. They just aren't, it's just not even in their field of awareness. They are invisible, and it's because they've done the inner work to the point where they're just in flow, they're invincible, they're through it. And that doesn't mean those of us that still get targeted and interfered with and attachments aren't doing a good enough job. We're all in it together. We're all collectively sort of learning and gathering tools and remembering and evolving through it. So the main thing is just, really loving the heck out of yourself through everything, celebrating when you're, really celebrating the moments of victory and flow, and honoring the times when we can't, have flow, or where we are targeted, and not giving ourselves a hard time for the shields going down, or not for when it's not sticking, because all that is information. It's just telling you, oh, there's a little more that you could become aware of, a little more work that you could do. You could go through another layer of clearing in this specific place where you're feeling worried, and you can look up, just really stepping into power, I think, is ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, I completely get it. I understand. And I feel like, honestly, that's more or less the process I went through, because I felt I got to the point where I felt just complete overwhelm. I mean, I was almost like in desperation kind of feeling.
Yeah, and a deconstruction. sometimes those happen right before expansions. So we can get really interfered with right before, also, after, but also right before there's an activation coming. And so sometimes you can just go, okay, I feel like I'm totally losing it. Everything is crazy. I might just turn into a puff of smoke or some crazy thing. And just saying, okay, that's okay. I can feel through this experience. I'm going to be safe. It's all just information. There's another side to it, so I can just, to some extent, just allow. Not allowing
that's exactly what happened. I more or less just kind of threw in the towel. Like, I'm not going to, it's kind of like I recognized that, this isn't me. This isn't who I am right now. There's something going on, and I'm allowing it, to get the best of me in a way that I'm uncomfortable with. But I also recognized the feelings that I was feeling, and I was able to correlate them to, the things that I've dealt with for a long time, that I thought that I had, for the most part, healed, and completely moved away from, but I hadn't. I hadn't.
Oh,
I
my
think
God.
it was a very important lesson. And
when
so
we're
I'm sorry?
Lots of layers. We're healing, we heal through layers. Everything is cyclical. A lot of times we have to come back around and go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And the thing about the energy right now is that we're not really given, we used to be able to get away with saying, okay, yeah, I'll deal with that, but maybe not just yet. How about if I focus on this unhealed aspect that's not quite as painful? What's happening right now is that we aren't really getting away with that anymore. So anything that needs to be faced needs to be, met and healed and cleared, all of those things. I mean, there's a multitude of aspects of inner work, but anything that needs to be done, it's coming up with urgency. There's no more get out of jail free cards with the inner and shadow work. Not anymore. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fabulous. I'm so glad that you called in. This has just been, I know for a fact that there are members of the audience listening tonight and those that will be listening in the future that are going to resonate so much with what you've said tonight, Melissa.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I called in too. Appreciate you letting me share my story, my experience. Yeah, definitely.
Well, they're not just going to be resonating with what Melissa said. They're definitely going to be resonating with what you said, Beth. You knocked it out of the park there.
Oh, thanks. Well, I tell you, I'm feeling activated the past 3 days. I'm just like, it's just being in the flow, and it's been pretty exciting. I mean, it's funny because I think, oh my gosh, I'm so euphoric. Can this be sustained? It's just it's incredible. The energy is pretty incredible. But I have to say, I want everyone to know that it's not always incredible. And I actually went through a real deconstruction, and that that sort of segues from your story as well, Melissa. And I think a lot of people out there have probably experienced. I mean, I went through a couple of months and then a couple of weeks of really intense deconstruction that felt awful. It felt absolutely awful. It was really painful. There was a lot of, emotional just detox, really, and it was crap, and I did not enjoy a single moment of it. And I try so hard to be really in the now moment, and so I don't do a lot of analyzing of those things as much anymore as just dealing with the next right step. But I can see now in hindsight that it was all preparation for the activations through this energy that we are experiencing now. And so any of you out there that are they're in that space of deconstruction and are feeling, hopeless and, despondent and despair, just keep in mind that there is expansion on the other side of that, very likely. And please come join me, because this is I mean, I'm just, it's incredible. It's euphoric. It really is. It's just, it's like nothing else I've experienced in this incarnation energetically. The past 3 days have knocked it out of the park, basically. So it's just, it's so exciting, super exciting stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
all right, well, I will let you guys go in case somebody else wants to call in and share with you. But I do really appreciate, I appreciate your insight and just everything. Everything you said just completely resonates with me, and I just love that.
Thank you for telling us that, and thank you so much for calling in. It was synchronistic for you to call in and share your story. It was absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yes. You're welcome. You guys have a wonderful.
Oh,
you too,
I accidentally cut her off. Sorry about that, Melissa. That was really good. So we don't have any callers just yet. Although I would like to invite people to call in. We have a little over a half an hour left in the show. So those of you that would like to call in and join the discussion, talk about your experience of the frequency, call us. It's 619-924-9805. So back to you, Eric. Any burning desires for a topic?
Nothing really popping up in my mind right now. There was one thing that I did want to share for any of the empaths out there, like Melissa, who've been feeling things that are that they know isn't them. A really easy way to tell the energy what to do is just literally tell it. Visualize the energy and visualize what you're feeling, and tell it what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. Straight from Cameron Day. It's a very simple way to do quite powerful things right there, because the energy is constantly waiting. It's always waiting for input. It's waiting to be told what to do. And most of the time people don't realize that we can tell it what to do. And so it just runs its default programs, so tell it what to do. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours.
It's really the most simple truths that I don't know how it is that we forget those things so easily, but that right there is a poignant and potent and powerful simple truth. You actually do have the inherent power to direct the energy, to tell it what to do. That's beautiful, really powerful.
It really is, especially when you get in those situations to where you're feeling everything crushing down on you, and you're picking up the backlash of the collective consciousness, the anguished psychic scream, I guess you could say, of what's happening right now with people who aren't understanding the rising frequencies and feeling the crunch. You can be empathic, you can feel things that are happening, and you can understand things that are happening, but you don't have to make it yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's employing the observer in more ways than one. We can be experiencing all of these things as well as observing them with perspective, instead of getting really caught up in the emotional information, which is something that, that really, I would actually like to talk about that for just a moment. We have a lot of emotional information that's coming in all of the time, and that information is super useful, but it's not necessarily useful. It's useful to feel the emotions, to not resist them, to allow them in, but don't stop there, because you can go further than simply responding or reacting from the way that you feel, from the emotional response. Because, at this time when we're challenging belief systems, when we're willing to relearn and be open, remember, to evolve, we can be exposed to something that gives us a sort of initial negative, visceral, emotional feeling, but don't get stuck there, because sometimes that's just, beyond just being information. It can also lead you into kind of residing in resistance. So a willingness to go a little, to go beyond how you're feeling emotionally and really get sort of, into the meat of further depths of the information. I think a lot of us, some of the programming that we are running and the patterns and the habits are to have an emotion that doesn't feel good and to just sort of react from that emotional place. And we don't necessarily have to do that. We can reprogram, we can relearn more effective and more mature. It's really about allowing ourselves to be mature about the emotional information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Residing in resistance.
I missed what you just said, something about resistance.
Oh, I said I love that, residing in resistance. It's like the perfect way to describe it right there. If a lot of people, especially with the whole New Age thing going on, that's, you have to be love and light all the time. No, you don't. That's not what we're made up. We're made up of an emotional body that has a vast array of spectrum. If you're angry, be angry. If you're sad, be sad. If you're depressed, be depressed. But there's a reason for it, and you have to go into that emotion understanding that it's not going to stay that way forever. And you need to figure out why the reason is that you're there,
Yeah, emotions really are just information. I think in a natural system, it's just like the other information that we receive. Our bodies are giving us information constantly. We're constantly getting emotional information. We're getting energetic information.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think, so many things have been pathologized to the point where we're just big, a lot of times we're just one big exposed nerve reacting from an emotional, from the place of emotion. But, emotions really are just information. So take them as information, factor them in, and then move into the greater inner higher self for the translation or the deeper level of information. So we should probably talk a little bit about what people can expect over the next couple of weeks with this intense energy. And we've definitely talked a lot about kind of how to respond and how to be prepared. But people always really want to kind of have a heads up for what's coming. And I'm not, my work is so intuitive that I just like to hear what you think about that, Eric. What can people expect?
Oh, what can we expect over the next couple of weeks? What can we expect until the actual breakthrough point? And it would be more accurate, because it's getting to the point right now, like you just called it, there is no get-out-of-jail-free card. When things start popping up, we can't just put that off to go work on something else anymore. We have to really face what's happening and recognize that there are unhealed aspects of my emotional self, of my physical self, of my mental self, of my energetic self that are coming to the forefront right now as a weak point, and that's what's being shown to me, and that's what you have to work on. So, what we're going to be expecting is these periods that are alternating between bliss and euphoria and, oh, God, the world is ending. Oh, the sky is falling, And we're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth in between those two, because with the increasing waves of energy, like you keep hearing about people talking about ascension symptoms, and they're literally talking about the parasite symptoms as ascension symptoms. They're saying, headaches and, the pain in the body and weird thoughts and stuff like that, they're all ascension symptoms, and that's a huge, huge psyop right there to get you to accept the parasitic construct inside your body. These real ascension symptoms are waves of bliss, waves of just absolute energetic euphoria, things that make you feel like you're literally on drugs. It's releasing massive amounts of serotonin and dopamine into the brain, massive amounts of DMT, and it's literally hooking us into a higher dimensional field. And that's what an ascension symptom is. And we're going to be bouncing back and forth until we can actually truly connect in with that vibration and stay there. And, a lot of people can't do that. You have to really kind of go and meditate in a cave for 40 years in order to get to that point before now. We're naturally heading to that point, but we have to figure it out. We're walking a razor's path right now. We can't focus too much on the negative, and we can't focus too much on the positive. There's work to be done, and you have to really kind of keep that in mind. So it doesn't matter what you're feeling. The true recognition is that there is work to be done. There's evolving to be done. There's conscious evolution to, really keep at the forefront of what we're doing.
That's interesting what you say about ascension symptoms. It makes me think of something that occurred to me last night. I had to, I had so much energy. I was like detailing my kitchen at 10 p.m. And aside from Wednesday nights when we do the radio show, I'm in bed by 8:30. I mean, it's so rare for me. And so I did that. I was clean, any little, with the toothbrush in the crevices, just detailing. So funny. But I went and sat outside to stargaze, and I suddenly had an experience of what felt like my thyroid being inflated like a balloon. And it wasn't painful. It wasn't painful, but it was very apparent. It was, it could not be ignored. And I was slightly tempted for a moment to become fearful because it was such an odd sensation. And I consciously chose, because I was definitely aware of what's happening energetically at that point. I was able to consciously choose to sort of really, be willing to not be, I just wasn't, I decided not to be tempted by the fear. And then the message came in, it's a physical upgrade. It's uncomfortable. It's not painful, but it's uncomfortable. It feels weird because it's different. But something is changing in your body in that location. So just relax into it. And I just chose to do that, and I woke up and the sensation was gone. So I agree with you, though, that the really, the super negative physical ascension symptoms are definitely quite often interference and or simply resistance. There's a lot of physical discomfort, and it takes a lot of energy to resist. I mean, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, and that would cause muscle aches and headaches and tension and, any of the other number of things, nausea, etc. So, first of all, just try releasing resistance by calling it out verbally calling out your own resistance, accepting it to some, don't resist the resistance either, recognize you're in resistance, be willing to be in resistance. And then, just being willing to surrender to the energy to some extent really helps with those body stuff, I think.
Well, what's really interesting is that you can hear it when you talk. There's a definite difference in the energy that you bring across. It's not the way it was the last time you were on the radio show or the last time that I talked to you. There's a confidence, there's an understanding, there's a knowing that's happening when you talk, and it's definitely conveyed now.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I love hearing that stuff. We don't ever have perspective of what's going on with our own selves because we're living through it. So thanks for saying that. I love hearing that from you, especially Eric, since you're so incredibly light and powerful and aware. I appreciate that. Fantastic.
Oh, I'm just aware.
Oh, stop it. You're all the things. So, I just want to make sure we cover everything that we have sort of promised to talk about tonight. Do you have any, I still always just want to hear more about the Mount Shasta adventures, and I was a little bit peeved with myself for not being able to bilocate or, any of those, because I thought, I knew you were there, and I thought magical things are happening. I want to come live in just shrink down and be in your shirt pocket.
Oh, gee, Shasta. I mean, honestly, I could go on about Shasta forever. There is an energetic city that you can actually tap into when you're on the mountain. You can feel the resonance of this place about 50 to 60 miles away from it. And it's literally a wall that you can cross. And if you're energetically sensitive to the point that you can feel this, it's like you walk through, like a curtain of light that literally just passes through every cell of your being. And I mean, there's a very distinctive spot where you go from the mountain when you're driving to it, and once you cross it, you can literally point to that mountain with your eyes closed. It's almost like feeling the sun beating down on you with your eyes closed, and you can point to it because it's hot. That's the direction it's coming from, and it's the same type of feeling with that mountain. And when you actually go and stand on that mountain, it's magic. It really, truly is. I just really don't know how to describe it any other way. It's a very, very energetically charged place. And if you tap into the energy of the mountain, you can literally close your eyes and sink down underneath it, under the city. And Sierra, she's pregnant, about 6 months pregnant right now, the love of my life. And we were up on this mountain, and you can feel the baby playing around down in this city, and down in this energy. And it was just one of the most incredible experiences to actually see all of this happening. And so, I mean, it's just a magical, magical place. I really can't say enough about Shasta. If you haven't been there, you got to go. I mean, that's just all I can really say about it. That's it. That's it right there. It's
Well, I can definitely attend and tune in intentionally to that mountain and feel the energy of it. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that there's some seriously potent energy. I wonder if there's any other, I'd be interested to talk to people who have done a lot of traveling to these power points on the planet, and to talk about the difference in the energies at these different places. And
yeah, I would too, actually.
Sort of I love anecdotal evidence, and people's stories of their own experience is always so fascinating to me. I'd love to talk to people who have done that. So if there's anyone listening, reach out to either Eric or I, and we'd love to have you on the show and to talk about your experience with these power points on the planet, and how they're individual. I guess that's what I'm really interested in, how Mount Shasta is individual in its energy.
I really would be too, because I haven't done very much traveling. I've only gone up and down the western coast of the United States, and Shasta is over there. But I mean, there's like Mount Fuji in Japan, Lake Titicaca in South America. There's a few more I can't remember right now. But apparently each one of these places has its own resonance of energy, and I haven't been to any of them except for Mount Shasta. And if they have an energy similar to Mount Shasta, I definitely need to go, because Shasta is incredibly transformational just in and of itself. So I could only imagine the journey that would be accompanied with visiting all these places like that. It would be an incredibly empowering journey, that's for sure.
We need a Power Mountain tour, world tour.
Yes, definitely.
I'm down for that. Let's plan that at this point, it's funny I say let's plan that, because I almost feel like we really shouldn't, almost to some extent, shouldn't be planning anything. We should just be wide open, clean slates.
Yeah. It's if the opportunity presents itself, go with it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't reside in resistance. If there's an opportunity that suddenly presents itself, that's what you're supposed to be doing right then and there, so do it.
I'm all about the spontaneity. Spontaneous Power Mountain World Tour. Here we go.
Oh, that'd be great.
We've got a mountain up here where I live. I live just on the Canadian border, sort of halfway between Vancouver and Seattle, and we've got a lovely little mountain up here as well, Mount Baker, that definitely has it definitely has energy. I mean, I think every mountain to some extent does. And I have to say, I definitely really enjoy being near a mountain. I'm actually fortunate because I'm right on the coast and, right on the Rocky Mountains here, these northern Rocky Mountains. And Mount Baker definitely has some energetic potency of its own.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely attest to that. When I tuned into that mountain, there's quite a bit of stuff going on with it.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked about that. Have you, do you check in periodically with my little mountain up here? Has there been any
I am right now, and that light machinery is still operating full force, full bore. It's, about maybe 3 or 4 months ago after we did all of that, I felt the machinery being capped off again, and I pulled the cap off, and it's still going. If anything, it's even stronger now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That validates my feeling. I feel like these caps and things, these contingencies, they're really just not working very well anymore. And that's actually, we're seeing that play out. This whole, I do not want to talk about politics because I don't want to give too much energy to that. It's just a big waste of time. But from the perspective of how
right.
ridiculous, it's so ridiculously humorous what's happening in the American political climate right now. I mean, could it be any more of like a caricature? It's just like, it's almost...
Yeah, it's like a bad cartoon.
Yeah, it's almost like they just don't even care anymore about how ridiculous it is. And I think probably more than they just don't care is that they've lost control. The level of control and the ability to socially program us and to control our consciousness, these things have failed. And, look at that. That is a testament to how powerful humanity is. All of these things that have been thrown at us from all, in multiple contexts, from our food and our water and our air to, energetic, etheric implant. I mean, you name it, it's been thrown at us. And look at where we are. I mean, I think that we could probably do a little collective pat on the back for humanity because we've really been put through it, and here we are glowing from the inside out.
Indeed. They literally hit us from every angle, politically, socially, energetically, psychologically. They get us from every single angle, and yet we're still latching onto the truth, and we're still turning on the light. There's nothing that they can do. It is going to happen, and we are going to force the issue.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's just like labor. It really, once labor begins, there's no stopping that. You can't be in the birth canal and decide that you want to go backwards. It just isn't possible. It doesn't work. And we're in the birth canal. There's no way to wriggle back up in there. We have to go forward. We are, it's an apocalypse in the best definition of that word. And so there's a level of sort of release of stress and pressure with that realization. there's no point in resisting what's happening to us energetically because it's happening anyway. It's going to happen. And resistance only makes it uncomfortable. And,
yeah, exactly. The correlation with that is birth is a messy, painful process, but it creates something absolutely phenomenally beautiful, and that's what we're in the middle of right now. Called it.
Yeah, birth is uncomfortable in a lot of ways, exactly. So we can be willing, to experience that labor discomfort, recognizing that also is a part of the process. And that reminds me of, how they say you can't help a bird out of its egg when it's coming out because it needs to experience that struggle of breaking through the shell on its own in order to be strong and healthy. And so we can accept that there's some, even positive change creates some level of discomfort. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. I mean, that's another way that we're programmed. Treat every symptom immediately with pharmaceuticals. You can't possibly allow yourself to be at all uncomfortable. That's not true. There's a lot of value in allowing yourself to experience the discomfort of the process. And again, it's not always about the end result. And I think that this applies. It's not just about reaching a point of ascension. It's also about the process. It's about the path that we walk. And, we don't put a puzzle together the whole time thinking, I just want this puzzle to be done. It's going to be awesome when it's done. I can't wait until it's done. We enjoy putting the pieces of the puzzle together. We enjoy the process of creating that. And we can do that through this now. We can enjoy even the discomfort, even the deconstruction. And the deconstruction offers contrast to the euphoria, really, which helps us to be in gratitude and be present with ourselves, willing to be present with ourselves through the discomfort, love ourselves through the discomfort, love each other through the discomfort. And so that brings up something else I wanted to talk about. People are really, we're easily triggered right now because we're agitated. It's like a grain of sand in the eye. And so it's really tempting to want to lash out at each other and to get frustrated and to do a little bit of blaming and these sorts of things. And I'd like to take a moment to remind all of us here that we're in it together, and extending empathy and compassion for those who are highly irritating around you. They're going through it too. And we can only do this when we hold hands and we stand together and we come together.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, we don't have any more callers. We've got about 5 minutes to talk about anything else that we'd like to cover, or we could wrap it up. I think the show feels really, really powerful to me. I can feel it touching people and resonating. I'm really excited.
Definitely. Well, I just enjoy hearing the expansiveness and the understanding that you went through with the opening of your throat. That's it's a really interesting activation right there.
Oh my gosh, and just one of many. I mean, I really have lost count of the activations. And another thing I'll say about activations is that we don't need to know what's being activated necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to know. We aren't. It's actually a protection sometimes that we don't have all of the information. And I know that it's difficult. We want to know. We want to be able to categorize and intellectualize and analyze and make perfect sense of things and have all of our ducks in a row. But sometimes that doesn't actually serve us. And so if you feel an activation or an expansion coming in, it's okay to not know exactly what it is that is happening. Oh, I've lost Eric. So it's not necessarily important to know exactly what it is that's happening. We can just allow ourselves to be in the experience of the activation and trust that when we need to know what's important about it, when we need the information about what's occurring, the information will be available to us. It's always available to us at the exact right time. And I just experienced a preparation for what I'm experiencing now, and I didn't know at the time that it was a preparation. In hindsight, I can see that it was a preparation. And it worked as a preparation simply because I took the next right step. Every time that I was presented with the next right step through the intuitive guidance, I took it, and it led me perfectly to the place where I'm at, which is, definitely euphoric in awesome and weird ways. And I did it without knowing that this was going to be the end result, just being willing to walk down the path. So if you're, for those of you that are experiencing this visceral and intense and potent energy, but you feel confused and you don't necessarily intellectually understand it, it's okay. It's okay that you don't understand it. You don't need to at this moment, or you would, and you will when it is salient to your own experience. You will understand it. That's always available to us at exactly the right time.
It's really interesting because a lot of us came here with information. We came here into this incarnation already with information that we just can't seem to access. And it's not that we can't seem to access it, it's that the energetic environment around us is not able to actually contain those types of that type of information. Once we get to the point, go ahead.
It goes dormant. It's had to go dormant. It's
in
there,
exactly.
But
well, the thing is that with these senses that we are going to be waking up, they don't operate inside of a 3D world, and so we have information that goes with this nonlinear, extra-dimensional aspect of ourselves that until the energetic frequency here in this physical world can actually sustain it, we won't even know what to do with it. It's stuff that we can catch in fleeting glimpses, and it's definitely a waiting game. It's not a waiting game at all at the same time. It's working towards manifesting that environment so that we don't have to wait on it anymore, because we'll all know exactly what to do when the time gets here.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much yes about everything that you just said. Ascension is such a tricky business, but also simple as pie. I mean, it really, it's so funny how it works like that. I was just going to respond to another, but I've gotten lost in my own train of thought. Oh my gosh, wonderful show. I've just so enjoyed tonight after our 2-week hiatus, and I'm super duper looking forward to our show next week, which we don't have a topic yet, but if anybody has any burning topic ideas that you'd like for Eric and I to cover on a Wednesday night, please feel send either of us a message, and you can contact me on Facebook. My name is Beth Ann Carr, and please feel free to send me a message and connect. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And I'd like to take just the last 30 seconds here to extend some unconditional love and acceptance energy to every single one of you that this broadcast reaches in this now moment and into the future as well. Fantastic. Okay. Until next week, everyone, thank you again.
Until then, bye-bye.